that?
Holy shit!
What the f was that?
The darkest paranormal video ever filmed shows something that no one should ever witness. In a house filled with shadows, each room seemed alive, watching and waiting for us to make a mistake. What could drive a place to hold such terrifying energy? Could it be the unsolved disappearance? Tune in as we reveal what the camera captured that night that was so scary it made people there go crazy forever. The house that refused to stay quiet. From the moment we stepped out of the car, something about the property screamed, "Leave." The noise, frogs, crickets, and birds was so loud it was maddening, as if nature itself was warning us to stay away. Then came the first ominous sign. The back door was wide open, a gaping mouth leading straight to the lake. Nobody had been on the property for days, so why was it like this? The question lingered as we cautiously stepped inside. The air was suffocating, like being wrapped in a cold, invisible blanket. Before we go any further, it's clear that what we uncovered inside was far darker than anyone could have predicted, and this isn't the only thing that will leave you shaken. Inside, the tension only grew. We started our standard scan with the EMF detector, trying to pinpoint areas of activity. Almost immediately, the reading spiked near the back door. Something had definitely been there, or maybe it still was. It was impossible to ignore the feeling that we were being watched, a sensation so strong it felt like someone was breathing down our necks. And then there were the roaches, a disgusting, inexplicable invasion that coincided with our every move. They scurried across countertops, adding to the growing sense of dread. As we moved deeper into the house, the activity escalated. A chair in the kitchen suddenly tipped over with a loud crash, scattering papers across the floor. Glass shattered in another room. We captured it all on our cameras, but no amount of footage could explain the terror we felt. The Ovilus device, which converts energy into words, repeatedly spit out cryptic phrases like "enter" and "inner," as if something unseen was trying to make its presence known. Was it a warning? A message? We couldn't tell, but it was clear we weren't alone. The kitchen became a focal point of activity. As we set up a new test with the yes-no prism, the device began flickering no repeatedly. It sat motionless, yet something or someone seemed to manipulate it. The glass fragments on the floor glistened under the dim light, a chilling reminder of how fragile our safety was. Meanwhile, the roaches kept emerging, crawling from places they shouldn't have been. It was as though the house itself was rejecting us, its energy lashing out in every possible way. Then came the barn. While taking a break outside, we heard an ear-splitting slam from the stable area. The sound sent shivers down our spines, yet we were drawn to investigate. Inside, the air felt thick, almost unbreathable. As we set up a spirit box session to communicate, the barn began to rumble. The walls shook and the ground seemed to vibrate beneath us. Whatever was there wasn't just restless. It felt angry, even vengeful. The lake was our final destination. The chilling history of a woman's body being found there made it the most likely source of the haunting. Setting up a Ouija board on the dock, we asked simple questions. Are you here? Are you evil? The responses weren't direct, but the atmosphere grew colder, more oppressive. A splash interrupted the session, and when we looked toward the water, we saw it. A woman's head, partially submerged, staring back at us. Her eyes were piercing, her wet hair clinging to her face. The image burned into my memory as we bolted, abandoning our equipment and any semblance of professionalism. Leaving the house didn't mean escaping it. The feeling stayed with us. Even far away, the strange events seemed to grow stronger. The haunting that follows you home. This investigation left scars, both physical and emotional. I've seen a lot over the years, but this was different. It wasn't just paranormal activity, it felt like a direct assault. The house, the barn, the lake, each location seemed to carry its own brand of malevolence, working together to drive us away. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that we weren't just investigating a haunting. We were stepping into something far darker, something that defies explanation. The presence in the house seemed to follow us. Back at the car, we felt watched, the surrounding woods crackling with unseen activity. Every shadow seemed to move, every rustle in the underbrush felt like a threat. We couldn't bring ourselves to enter the house again, yet we couldn't leave without trying to document what we'd experienced. Even setting up equipment outside felt like pushing our luck. The barn, the lake, and the eerie open back door remained vivid reminders of the oppressive force we had encountered. Weeks later, while reviewing the footage, more unsettling details emerged. Shapes in the shadows, faint whispers caught on audio, and strange energy readings that defied explanation. One frame showed what appeared to be a pale figure in the lake, barely visible yet undeniably there. The footage from the kitchen revealed objects moving on their own, confirming what we had seen firsthand. But it was the barn's rumbling that haunted us most, the sensation that the building might collapse under the weight of whatever inhabited it. This wasn't the first time we had encountered paranormal activity, but it was the most intense. Other investigations had been eerie or even frightening, but this felt personal. The energy in the house seemed aware of us, almost as if it were responding to our presence. The connection between the haunting and the property's dark history felt undeniable. The unsolved disappearance, the body in the lake, and the pest infestations all pointed to something far beyond the usual haunting. The aftermath of this investigation was unlike anything we had experienced before. Our team struggled to shake the unease, plagued by nightmares and unexplained events back home. Equipment malfunctioned, and footage seemed to distort or disappear without reason. It felt as though the malevolent force we encountered hadn't stayed behind. The sensation of being watched lingered, an invisible weight pressing down on us even miles away from the property. Paranormal investigations are often about piecing together fragments of the unknown, but this case left more questions than answers. What was the connection between the lake, the house, and the barn? Why did the activity manifest so violently? And most chillingly, what did the pale figure in the lake want from us? These thoughts have lingered, casting a long shadow over every investigation we've conducted since. The property remains uninhabited, its dark reputation scaring away potential residents. The owners who contacted us moved away shortly after our visit, unable to bear the constant activity. Their descriptions of the pests, the noises, and the feelings of dread aligned perfectly with our experiences. But even they seemed relieved to leave the questions of the property behind, uninterested in seeking further explanations. Reflecting on this case, it's clear that some places are better left alone. The weight of its history, combined with the unexplainable events we witnessed, makes this location one of the most unforgettable and terrifying we've ever encountered. As investigators, we often seek answers, but this time it felt like the property itself was warning us to stop. Whatever lurks there remains beyond our understanding, a chilling reminder of how little we truly know about the forces that surround us. Sometimes looking for answers leads to stories even scarier than our own. These places across the country have tales that will leave you cold. Tales of darkness across the nation. The United States has no shortage of creepy stories, and some of them are more than just campfire tales. From haunted mansions to eerie battlefields, the country is littered with places where the line between the living and the dead seems blurred. Whether it's chilling ghost sightings or bizarre occurrences, these stories have kept people on edge for decades. Take Amityville, New York, for instance. In 1975, the Lutz family moved into a large Dutch colonial house, only to leave less than a month later. They spoke of strange noises, objects flying across rooms, and even ghostly figures. While the story inspired movies and books, skeptics have poked holes in their claims. Still, the house remains infamous and a source of fascination for thrill seekers. New Orleans, Louisiana has its share of darkness too. Between 1918 and 1919, an unknown assailant dubbed the Axeman terrorized the city. His brutal crimes targeted Italian immigrants, leaving police baffled and locals terrified. The Axeman was never caught, adding a layer of eerie permanence to the city's already strange vibe. Then there's the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. Built by Sarah Winchester, the widow of a gun magnate, the mansion has 160 rooms, doors that lead nowhere, and staircases that end abruptly. Legend has it she built the house to confuse the spirits of those eliminated by Winchester rifles. Visitors often claim to hear whispers, footsteps, and feel inexplicable cold drafts. In Estes Park, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel sits as both a luxurious getaway and a hotspot for paranormal activity. Stephen King stayed here and found inspiration for his famous novel, The Shining. Guests and staff have reported seeing the ghost of Flora Stanley playing piano late at night. The isolated setting of the hotel makes the stories even creepier. Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay is infamous for its history as a prison for the country's most dangerous criminals. Now a museum, visitors still report strange occurrences, like hearing phantom footsteps and voices. The isolation and grim history of the island make it a breeding ground for ghost stories. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, known for its pivotal Civil War battle, is one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors often report hearing gunfire, seeing apparitions of soldiers, and feeling sudden drops in temperature. The immense loss of life during the battle seems to have left a lingering mark. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana takes haunting to another level. Tales of a ghost named Chloe, a former enslaved woman, and other apparitions have been passed down for years. Visitors swear they've seen figures in period clothing and caught unexplainable images in photos. The plantation's dark history only fuels the chilling tales. Over in Salem, Massachusetts, the Howard Street Cemetery ties back to the infamous witch trials of the 1690s. Giles Corey, who was pressed to death for refusing to plead guilty to witchcraft, is said to appear as a ghost before major disasters. Many visitors claim to feel an overwhelming sense of unease while walking through the cemetery. Even the White House isn't free from ghostly rumors. Abraham Lincoln's ghost has been spotted by figures as notable as Winston Churchill. Stories of paranormal sightings within America's most famous residents add an intriguing layer to its storied past. In Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary, now a floating hotel, has been the site of countless eerie reports. Visitors describe hearing disembodied voices and seeing shadowy figures, especially around the first-class swimming pool and engine room. Its past as a luxury liner and wartime vessel only heightens its haunted reputation. The Shanghai tunnels in Portland, Oregon have their own grim history. These underground passageways were allegedly used to kidnap people and force them into labor on ships. Today, visitors report hearing footsteps echoing in the dark and feeling icy drafts. The chilling history of these tunnels makes them a must-see for those interested in the paranormal. San Diego's Whaley House, built on land once used for public executions, has long been considered one of America's most haunted homes. Guests often hear unexplained footsteps and see figures appear and vanish. The house's layered history as both a family residence and courthouse adds complexity to the haunting. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia offers a grim reminder of how poorly mental health patients were treated in the past. The asylum was overcrowded with patients living in dreadful conditions. Visitors today claim to hear voices, see shadowy figures, and feel intense cold spots. Its dark past seems to echo through its halls. Tennessee's Bell Witch Cave draws those fascinated by old legends. In the early 1800s, the Bell family claimed to be tormented by an invisible entity. Even now, visitors to the cave report hearing eerie voices and seeing moving shadows. This haunting tale has inspired countless retellings. Villisca, Iowa is home to the site of a horrifying unsolved crime. In 1912, 8 people were brutally eliminated in their sleep by an unknown assailant wielding an axe. The house is now a museum where visitors claim to hear children's laughter and see strange shadows. Its grim history continues to attract those curious about the macabre. The Crescent Hotel in Arkansas is another hotspot for ghost enthusiasts. Once a hospital, it now serves as a hotel where guests report ghostly encounters, including voices and moving objects. The building's long and varied history seems to lend itself to its eerie vibe. Savannah, Georgia, with its moss-draped trees and historic architecture, is a magnet for ghost stories. The Bonaventure Cemetery is particularly famous, where visitors report hearing whispers and seeing figures among the old graves. The haunting beauty of the cemetery adds to its eerie charm. St. Louis, Missouri has the Lemp Mansion, a place tied to immense tragedy. The Lemp family suffered multiple accidents and untimely eliminations, and visitors to the mansion report hearing voices and seeing apparitions. Its dark history makes it one of America's most unsettling spots. In Chicago, Illinois, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is a small, neglected graveyard with a big reputation for paranormal activity. Shadowy figures, unexplained lights, and even ghostly cars have been reported here. The desolate and overgrown setting only adds to the unease. Across the United States, these tales of the unexplained remind us that some stories refuse to stay buried. While skeptics may shrug them off, the chilling experiences of countless witnesses keep these legends alive. Maybe it's just our imaginations, or maybe there's more to these tales than we're ready to admit. When strange things happen, it's easy to feel scared and confused. Let's talk about simple steps to stay calm and handle what's going on. How to face the unexplainable. Finding yourself smack in the middle of something that feels, well, not exactly normal. Maybe a door swings open on its own, or you hear sounds that just don't belong. It can make you feel like you're losing your grip, but hang on. If you ever find yourself caught up in what feels like a paranormal situation, the most important thing is not to panic. Let's break this down into manageable steps and keep it simple, because keeping your cool is the first step to figuring out what's really going on. First things first, take a deep breath. Freaking out won't solve anything. You've got to look around and assess what's happening. Is the creepy sound coming from a vent? Is that shadow just from a tree outside? Lots of stuff can seem spooky but have completely normal causes. The air conditioning kicking on or an old house settling can make sounds that feel straight out of a horror movie. Before you let your imagination run wild, look for a practical explanation. Many so-called paranormal encounters turn out to have totally boring answers when you dig a little deeper. Now, if the weird stuff keeps happening and you're running out of logical ideas, it's time to start keeping track. Grab a notebook and write down what's going on. If it's 2 in the morning and you hear footsteps in the hallway, jot that down. Include every little detail. Where you were, what time it was, what exactly happened. If you can, snap a picture or record some audio, but only if it feels safe to do so. This is about creating a log to see if there's any pattern. Maybe you'll discover that the ghost always seems to show up when the neighbor's dog is barking. Patterns help sort out the explainable from the truly strange. You don't have to go through this alone. Talk to someone you trust. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a neighbor, sharing your experience can give you a fresh perspective. They might notice something you missed or tell you about similar things they've experienced. Just be ready for a little skepticism. Not everyone will believe you right away, and that's okay. The goal here is to gather insights and maybe even some moral support. Having someone else in the loop can make a huge difference when things feel overwhelming. If you're still stuck and can't shake the feeling that something's just not right, it might be time to bring in someone who knows more about this stuff. Paranormal investigators, spiritual advisors, or even a counselor can provide guidance. Do your homework before you reach out. You don't want to waste time with someone who's just looking to make a quick buck off your fear. Look for recommendations, reviews, or even testimonials. The more informed your choice, the better your chances of getting real help, whether the issue is supernatural or not. But let's not underestimate the power of your own space. Sometimes giving your home a fresh start can make all the difference. Clean up, get rid of clutter, and let some light in. Many people believe that a tidy, positive environment can cut down on strange occurrences. Some even take it a step further and burn sage or use other methods to cleanse their space. While the science on this is iffy, it can't hurt to try, and it might just make you feel more in control. Speaking of control, it's your space, and you're allowed to set boundaries. Some people swear by speaking out loud to whatever they think might be there. It doesn't have to be dramatic or anything, just something firm and respectful. Say something like, "This is my home, and I'm asking you to leave." Whether or not it actually works, taking this kind of action can help you feel less like a victim and more like the boss of your own space. Taking care of yourself is another big piece of the problem. Stress, lack of sleep, or just feeling run down can make everything seem worse. Eat well, get plenty of rest, and try not to let anxiety take over. Sometimes when you're overtired or overworked, even normal things can feel supernatural. Keep yourself in good shape, and you'll have a clearer mind to deal with whatever's going on. If you're still curious about what's happening, don't stop learning. Dive into books, articles, or even online forums about paranormal experiences. Other people's stories might resonate with you or give you ideas on how to handle your own situation. Knowledge is power, and the more you know, the less scary everything seems. Just remember to keep a critical eye. Not every story or explanation you read is going to be reliable. Even though you want to be open to possibilities, don't forget your common sense. Just because something feels weird doesn't mean it's unexplainable. Stay grounded and question everything. The goal isn't to explain away what you're experiencing, but to understand it as best you can. Sometimes keeping an open yet critical mind can lead to answers you never expected. If after all this, the strange occurrences are still happening and starting to mess with your day-to-day life, it's time to escalate. Reach out to experts, whether that's a mental health professional, a trusted spiritual advisor, or someone who specializes in unexplained phenomena. You're not admitting defeat, you're taking control. The most important thing is that you don't let whatever's happening take over your life. Remember, strange things happen to people all the time, and you're not alone in dealing with it. By staying calm, keeping a record, and seeking support, you're doing everything you can to understand what's going on. Whatever the outcome, know that you've got options and resources to help you through it. And who knows, what feels unexplainable today might make total sense tomorrow. Is this the most chilling evidence of the paranormal ever captured, or is there a logical explanation hidden in the shadows? Share your thoughts and remember to like and subscribe for more.